Before I begin to preach, I want to take an opportunity to thank some special folks. We have a great media team who works really hard to live stream all of this and run our contemporary services. Our communications team, hospitality team works so hard on Easter to try and make this a great experience. So grateful for all of them, all the volunteers involved. And thank you especially to all of our musicians who have been here for 4 services. You guys are awesome and amazing. Thank you, choir. No choir members were harmed in the producing of this. Credo made it down the stairs and back 4 times without anybody falling. That was amazing. So I'm so grateful because it makes such a difference. I want you to hear this word from 1 Corinthians 13. We usually read 1 Corinthians 13 at weddings, but I want you to hear it today on Easter. Just one verse. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, but then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. Join me in prayer. Oh God, open us up. Open eyes that we might see and ears that we might hear your resurrection message, that gospel. And then, oh God, open up our hearts that message might fall in and take root. And then, oh God, open up our hands, that in response we might live and love and serve and give. Amen. So if you have lived in Texas for a long time, and if you haven't, or if you're young, this, you'll learn about this. There used to be a restaurant called Pancho's Mexican Buffet. Now, some of you remember Pancho's Mexican Buffet. There were dozens of them all around. There's still like 2 or 3 around. The corporate office has closed, and they closed most of the restaurants. But you would go through the line, and you would get as much food as you wanted. Greasy enchiladas, poor to mediocre Mexican food. But you got as much as you wanted. Right? And you'd take that, and you'd go back to your table, and you'd eat all of that. And then when that was done, there was a little flag on your table. Do you all remember that? It was a Mexican flag, and you'd raise the flag, and the flag would go up, and the waitstaff would see you, and they would bring you more greasy enchiladas and more, of the same stuff. And I just find it's a restaurant that speaks to our American spirit, because we tend to think that if what we have doesn't satisfy us, that more of it somehow will. It's just a remarkable thing. I've been thinking about what to preach on Easter, how to get the message across. And it was maybe a month ago. It was a beautiful day, and I am blessed to have a gift from my wife on my 60th birthday, a 1984 Jeep CJ7 that has now been restored. It is awesome. It is beautiful. And so it was a beautiful day, and the top is down, and I'm driving my Jeep thinking, what am I going to say on Easter? And wind is in my hair, and so here's the thing. When you're in that situation, you have to play music really, really loudly. That's part of the spirit of that experience, right? And you do that so that when you stop at a stoplight, the people around you will go, oh, I wish I was him. Look at that. Look how much fun he's having. It's really all about that. So this song came on the radio. You can either choose classic rock in that situation, or you can choose country. And I had chosen country on this day. And this song comes on the radio, and it was from a band called Sugarland, maybe 20 years old. And the chorus goes this way. There's got to be something more. There's got to be more than this. I need a little less hard time. I need a little more bliss. It's a song about, how we go through the motions of just getting up in the morning and going to work and just the drudgery, and you think to yourself, certainly this is not all there is. The Easter message is not more. The Easter message is something more. There's got to be something more. Outside of my office window is our church's columbarium. The columbarium memorial garden. It's where people put the ashes, the cremains of the people that they've lost, that they loved, in an urn, and it's put in a niche, and there's a stone with their name on it. And I will look out my window sometimes, and we'll see someone out there standing there looking at the niche. And often they're weeping. They're sad. And I think to myself, I need to go out there and remind them of Easter. And to tell them that when we face the reality of death, there's something more. Don't let that be all there is in your mind, because I promise you, there's something more. There is a poet named Louise Gluck, and she wrote a poem called October. And I'll say it's a little depressing. It's about, it uses the image of autumn as a way of saying there comes a point in life when you reach a certain place that you face the reality of your own death, your own mortality. And she has this one line. She says, it just hit me, "You will not be spared, nor will what you love be spared." It's so interesting, because I feel like when I face my own mortality, when I think about myself not being spared, I think, I can handle that. I can handle that. But when I think about the people I love passing away, when I think about losing people I love the most, my wife or my children, or I lost my mother, or close friends, it's just heartbreaking for me. I think, really, they won't be spared? I know I won't, but they won't? No, they won't. Mary shows up at the tomb, and Jesus' body has been taken away, and she is weeping outside. And she says, "They've taken my Lord away. I don't know where they've laid him. I've lost the person I love the most." She is overcome with grief, that price we pay for love. She is overcome with that grief. Craig Barnes, there is a realization that the first fruits that Jesus is the first fruits of resurrection, and that we too will be raised, and that those who we love will also be raised, and that we will see them again. And now, once they're gone, once they've passed away, we see them only, as 1 Corinthians says, only as a reflection, like in a mirror, like we're looking back, and we have those memories, and we're thinking about them. And all of that is all we've got. And it gets sad because sometimes those memories start to blur. But here's what the passage says. For now we see just as a reflection, but one day we will see them face to face. It's not just that we'll see Jesus face to face. It's that we'll even see the people we love face to face. There's a wonderful video I saw recently, and you may have seen some like this, but it really grabbed me. It is of a toddler. I'm going to guess maybe 18 months old, maybe even less than that, I don't know. And he's obviously been born with a disability of his sight. He can't see well, and everything must be very blurry, and he just really can't see. And so they're fitting him with his first set of glasses. And he's so cute. He's sitting there nice and quiet, and they pull this thing down over his head that is, the glasses, got a band and these round glasses, and they go on his face. And as soon as he gets those glasses on, he starts looking around, and his mom is next to him, and she's talking to him. Can you see? Can you see? And he looks over at her, and his face just brightens up with this great big smile, and he reaches his finger out towards her. And it's such a beautiful picture of that joy that overcomes him. I think that's what's ahead for us. For now we see, used to be the translation was through a glass darkly, like you can't quite see it. But we'll see face to face. We'll see Jesus face to face. We'll see the people we love face to face. Now, this resurrection message is not just about the fact that one day when we die, we'll be raised again. Because resurrection power, the truth of resurrection itself, is with us even right here in our lives every day. Right? That there is a sense that resurrection changes things even as we live right now. The passage from John, the resurrection narrative in John 20, begins with these words. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw the stone had been removed from the tomb. While it was still dark. I wonder if you've been in a dark place. Just a really dark place in your life, a circumstance, a situation. The Easter message tells us that when we are in a dark place, there is something more. That even in this life, there is something more. Craig Barnes is a pastor I love to read. He says this. Earlier this week, a woman was called into her supervisor's office to hear that times are hard for the company and they had to let her go. So sorry, they said. She cleaned out her desk, packed away her hopes for getting ahead, and wondered what she would tell her kids. Earlier this week, someone received terrible news from a physician. Earlier this week, someone heard the words, "I don't love you anymore." Earlier this week, someone's hope was crucified, and the darkness is overwhelming, and no one is ever ready to encounter Easter until he or she has spent time in a dark place where hope cannot be seen. Easter is the last thing we are expecting. Easter is about more hope than we can handle. When Jesus speaks to Mary, he calls her by name, and everything changes for her. And she realizes that beyond that dark place, that God has something else in store for her. There is in the port of Genoa, Italy, there is a statue. There's also a replica of it in Florida and in Grenada. And it is called, it is a statue of Jesus with his arms up kind of like this, in that "come to me all who labor and are heavy laden" pose. But it is underwater, 8 feet. And you can see it, they have lights on it so that from above the surface you can see it. But it is a memorial to all those who have died at sea. But it's called Christ of the Abyss. Christ of the Abyss. And I think it's a beautiful picture that when we are in the depths, when we are in that abyss, there is a Jesus who is reaching out to us, wanting us to come to him. Here's what happens. When we're in that dark place, sometimes Jesus is hard to find. We think to ourselves, You know, when I get to that really hard place, Jesus is going to pick me up and carry me through, and my faith is going to be so strong, and I'm going to be able to handle it. And when it happens, we're like, where are you, Jesus? I have been looking for you. They have taken you away, and I don't know where they put you. All I can do is see this reflection of that time when you seemed so vital and so real for me, and right now, where are you, Jesus? Well, now we see but a reflection. But there is a place, there is a time ahead when God gives us something more. When on the other side of that dark place, there's light. And there's the perseverance of love. I'm gonna do something that's kind of risky, and it's worked okay at the earlier services, so I'm going for it. I wonder how many of you have been in a dark place at some point in your life. And if so, I want you to raise your hand. Would you raise your hand if you've been in a dark place at some point in your life? All right. Now I'm going to ask you another question. How many of you have been in a dark place, but you're not anymore? That God got you through it and somehow. Raise your hands if you've done that. All right, I put my hand up. I'll say that for sure. And I want us to look around and think to ourselves, that's a testimony. That is a testimony. I could pick any of you. I mean, I'm not gonna, don't worry. But I could pick any of you and ask you to come up here and stand here and say, tell us how you got through. What happened? How are you on the other side of that? Because God has something more for us. That is the Easter message. On the other side of pain, on the other side of grief, on the other side of darkness, there's something more. I have been inspired by Paul Alexander. I don't know, some of you may know who he is. He is the man who died recently at age 70, who spent his life in an iron lung. He was the last man to have spent a life in an iron lung. He was 70 years old. He was diagnosed with polio as a child, and that's what they did. And you would think that he was in a really dark place, and I suspect that he had been. But they taught him to do this thing called frog breathing, where he could gulp air and then sort of force it down into his lungs, which would allow him to leave that iron lung for very brief periods of time. And they would put him in a wheelchair and take him to experience things and then quickly get him back in that iron lung. And he had an incredible relationship with a twin brother that he had. And he had a caregiver that he loved very much, who took great care of him, and she loved him as well. And she passed away, and he went through all of that grief. He got a law degree and practiced law out of an iron lung. And he said it was always a bit of a shock when the clients came into his office, and there was this iron lung there, and he was their attorney. How easy would it have been for him to say, this is a dark place and it's just never going to be better than this? But he didn't, because he believed God had something more for him. And I don't know anything about his faith life, but I believe that when he reached the end of those 70 years, God had still something more for him. And that broken body he was given a new body, eternal in the heavens. That God had something more for him, just like he does for us. I hope that in those times when you are wondering where Christ is, and you are in that moment of grief, or in a place where you feel trapped, or in a place of darkness, or maybe when you get to the edge of the Jordan River yourself, that this one verse from 1 Corinthians 13 will come to your mind. For now we see but a reflection as in a mirror, but then then we will see face to face. Because God has something more for us. Let's pray. Gracious God, you are a God of something more. You yourself are so resilient that you just keep on loving when the darkness is so great. We believe that when we are in dark places, that you are right there to walk us through whether we feel you or not, and you have on the other side something more for us. Oh God, we look forward to that day when we will see you face to face and see the ones we love face to face. And we will know that your resurrection message is real, and there will be great joy. Amen.